Okay, welcome to the KrakCast. We have breaking news, and a guest in the studio, Fergus Duffy, our beloved Fergus Duffy, owner and proprietor of the one and only Duffy's Bar, which is on the corner of Avincha and which other street? Bathosa. Yeah, right down there where the tram depot is and Starayezna and other places I pronounce badly. Okay, Fergie's here to tell us about a development. It turns out the corona crisis took a strange kind of turn today in that little grass shoots of normality started to appear. We'll get to the details on that. In fact, before I introduce Fergie, I'll say that plans have been made to get Dave back to the office too. In a safe, sanitised, gloves on the way in, mask on the way out type of situation. But signs we're getting back on track because we got this bombshell today that in fact we are indeed allowed to go to the pub on Monday, not just outside, but inside. Tell us more, Fergie.
This is the thing. Blackie, thanks for having me down, and Josh, thanks for having me in again, the second time here now. What happened today, I'm sure everybody, or most people are aware even now, it depends on when this one goes up, but at 2 o'clock today, the government made a decision to say that not only were the bars allowed open with a ton of restrictions outside, the outside areas, the beer gardens, but also the bars could open indoors. We were given permission today in writing to say that we were allowed from the 18th of this month, next Monday, that the indoor bars can open as well, which is a huge surprise. Huge. Was not expecting it.
Catch you on the hop a little bit, fair to say.
Absolutely, yeah. more than on the hop. Yeah, it was a strange thing because, like the way the news filters out every week from the people guessing on what's going to happen next or what might happen next in stage 1 and stage 2 and this, that and the other, but nobody had expected, I don't think I can safely say that nobody had expected for bars, the bars indoors could also open on the 18th, the same as the outdoors.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, we'll wind the clock back a little bit because I want to talk about the full implications. I want to get to March 13th first, though, the day that this all started to happen.
Yeah, that was a tough day. I got
a little mental image in my head. Okay, I see a backroom storage of which you have an ample amount. Fergie's Bar has this kind of gothic corridor that runs down to this large storeroom at the back. I have the picture of this being crammed to the roof with kind of gold bricks of Bulmers bottles getting ready for the celebration. I see a wall of kegs so double stacked that they're impossible to pass if you're not completely on your game. I see soft drink mountains building that will inevitably yield massive profit margins.
The man is speaking from years of experience.
I see waitresses remembering and reminding each other to call the ice guy well in advance and to make sure he gives us a quadruple delivery on St. Patrick's Day. Because that's what's coming up. March 17th is St. Patrick's Day, the number one drinking holiday in the entire global calendar.
You're right. So look,
we're making you feel better about all this.
You're making me feel a whole lot worse. But the thing about it was, you're right to an awful lot of it. We were very close. We were within days, 3 or 4 days of probably our biggest day of the year, St. Patrick's Day on the 17th of March. We were very close to it. What you did forget to mention in your vision that you had of my magazine or storeroom or whatever you want to call it,
magazine, I like,
was the 200 t-shirts that I had printed with St. Patrick's Day.
My God, you do a fine line in branded goods, Fergie. I saw you in a pair of Duffy's sweatpants, the Duffy sweat top you're rocking right now.
Yeah. But we also
these aren't commercially available. I hasten to add, you can only buy t-shirts, but they're badass. You got the kind of Jack Daniels-ish kind of vibe going on.
Yeah, well, the way it is now, we'll be giving them away free with every pint of Guinness. It looks like because if we don't get rid of them soon, they'll be out of date.
I think 2020 is a year that's going to linger long in people's memories, actually.
When you have 200 t-shirts saying Happy St. Patrick's Day 2020 and you don't have a St. Patrick's Day.
Well, is that what it says? Happy St. Patrick's Day 2020? This creates a wonderful opportunity for my surprise for you, Fergie, okay?
All right, go for it.
I'm reaching out to our enormous listenership, you know. All 5 of them, and I am urging them to tell their friends about my new competition that I'm setting up, and I want to see in the comment section. We are gonna push back St. Patrick's Day And what I want people to do is think of it an appropriate day in the calendar later in the year and justify it with some kind of historical reasoning, some kind of mad waffle, like some kind of faux paddy nonsense to make it sound cool.
I don't want
preferably funny.
I don't want to interject. It sounds
because that's what's happening. We're having St. Patrick's Day.
As if that's the only reason I'm here, and it's not, because this is something that's just come up right now. It's not something I was thinking of. Look at the t-shirts. That sort of end of it will go. As far as having a St. Patrick's Day, something that we could celebrate, the patron saint of Ireland, his day, as much as
drove out snakes and shit.
Well, let's not worry about the technicalities.
Don't give me that he was Welsh stuff.
He was actually Welsh, but I didn't come down. I'm not here to try and promote.
I know, mate.
St. Patrick's Day.
I know.
I'm not trying to here to try and promote something that. It was a shame, because we had an awful lot of things planned for the weekend, because it's turned out that it usually runs into a weekend. If it's anything like last year, it could run into 3 or 4 days. But no, we probably will have some celebration with music and crack and a good drink, and when it's safe for everybody to come back in around us. I'm back.
You like my idea, then? Yeah,
I think we could.
I sprung this on Fergie. I hasten that.
I think we could do something. I definitely do. We will probably put on an event later on in the year. What do we call it? St. Patrick's Zero.
St. Patrick's sitting up there,
2.0.
He's hanging outside Peter's gates. He's got his kind of big Guinness up there. Time goes by quite quickly up there. And he's looking down and he's going, "What happened to my party?"
Yeah, maybe we could do something later in the year. As far as stock and that goes, and the way the bar was set up for that, we were pretty ready for it.
Yeah, no,
we were ready. We had staff ready. We had certainly had enough alcohol to get us through a week or a weekend. It was a shame. We got news that we had to close. We had a full house the same day on the Friday the 13th. How ironic is that? And then we got news that we had to close. We looked at each other and said, "Holy, this is serious. This is getting serious now." So straight away, some people tried to string it out for another couple of days. We pulled the shutters. Straight away. We got the staff out and make sure everybody was doing the right things. A few disappointed customers because we closed early in the evening on the Friday evening.
Dragged Cowboy out from behind the bar.
We dragged a few out from behind. We dragged a few out the door.
How are you, John?
They didn't want to. How are you, John? They didn't want to leave. Yeah, it was a huge shock. People straight away. I don't want to go on too much about it, but a lot of people said it's not going to last too long. It'll be over in a couple of weeks. We'll be back to normal. I knew, Blackie. I knew when this word went out and starting to hear what was happening around the rest of the world. I knew it wouldn't be 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I knew. I had a feeling. I said it, and I said it to anybody that would listen. This is going to go on for a while. This is a couple of months job or 3. I said June.
And that's where we go next. That's why I was trying to have a bit of a laugh about Paddy's Day, because it's serious shit, Fergie. How long are these distancing restrictions feasible for even a successful, busy bar like yours? Right. I mean, you're willing to play ball with this. I know. I've seen you in action, man. You're all about the face masks. You're all about the gel. You've got all 6 brands of sanitizer.
Absolutely.
I think you could even have a kind of sanitizer utility belt.
I have some in the car and have some in my pocket.
Yeah.
I do. Listen. I don't know who knows me or doesn't know me, but I'll tell you, I'm of an age that I'm beginning to fall into the bracket.
Get up there with that.
No, but I'm not saying I'm retirement age or anything close, but I'm saying that I'm falling into the bracket of I hit a few of the criteria that they did lay out, and I would be, as an individual, I'd like to take care of myself and my staff and make sure everybody is safe and sound. Listen. I don't know.
You're not as old as Josh.
Josh is a lot healthier looking than I am. Josh is certainly looking a lot better than as you are. But I don't know. I'm a skeptic. I'll take people. I'll take the government at their word that if they say close down, which everybody done, which was fantastic, close down. When they say to open up, I'll open up when I'm ready to open up. I think that's the way I'm feeling about it today. Yeah. And it's not because I was put on the spot today at 2 o'clock that we should open up.
Well, I'll put you on the spot. Spit guards, 2 metre rules, markers in your pissers. It's really fun sponging the experience out of going to a pub, isn't it? How long are people going to pay for the experience of drinking a beer in such a reduced fashion? Shouldn't we, at some stage, have to say Poland's played a blinder? And while sanitary precautions are just sensible, sanitation on the way in, on the way out, using gloves or whatever, but the servers wearing masks maybe for a while, but the restrictions on the numbers of customers just seems to me comical, like a joke, like a quarter of your turnover. How can any business function on that more than maybe you could sustain it for you're willing to play ball for a while, maybe a month. What do you think?
It is a tough question. There's a couple of things that you said there in the build up to that.
It was a very multi-part question.
It was, yeah. Like, who wants to go to a bar with not many people in it? Like, part of the whole experience, certainly the experience in Duffy's, or bars like Duffy's, sports and music bars, it's all about a bit of atmosphere, it's about a bit of crack, it's about having a laugh. It's shocking important in my business. There is other bars in the area that people would be quite happy to go into and sit and hold hands and have a look and have a chat. But Duffy's is not that type.
The last time I was in the bar, let me just throw this one in. Atletico Madrid, Liverpool. Okay. Even though we lost, what a night. Yeah. I mean, we were all rammed into the little corner seat, man. Our favourite seat to watch a match.
It does get a bit tight, and I think
crack though, the banter, like the stick we'd be giving each other, you can hear everyone around, like right up to the bar. That's what I love about the room.
There's no doubt about it. Duffy's on a good night, or even on a bad night, it needs people. It needs that atmosphere, because I call it a live sports and music bar, which it is. Yeah. So the two things, the two questions that you asked me, how long could I sustain it? I can. I'm not worried about it. We can drag it out to the end of the year.
Good man.
We can see what next year brings. We were doing a great trade. There's no doubt about it. Could we sustain it on half, or quarter, or just above quarter, or half? We could. I think we could. We could go on.
I know you. It's going to drive you mad.
It'll drive me insane.
Trying to police this is going to drive you nuts.
It'll drive me insane. Now, like we'll say, Duffy's on a good night. You're talking about 120, maybe, I don't know, 110 people.
We paint you a really annoying scenario.
Go on.
Lovely old lady says low on the way in, where are you from? Clearly charmed by a Fergie,
Of course.
And then she sits right beside someone, and you have to go over and tell her that to move out of the way.
Oh, it'll break me hard.
That's nice, isn't it? Yeah, that's fun.
It'll break me hard. It will be hard. Look at it. The whole thing about the social end of a bar, like an Irish bar like Duffy's, or bars like that, is that people are in close contact with each other, and how's it going, and where are you from, and when did you get over, are you here on holidays, or do you live here, or what it is. It's all about being social, and I think to put people in little pens where it will be safe, and it will be sanitised, and it will be controlled, and the markings will be on the ground, and the bathrooms, the sanitisers and the gloves and the masks, we have all that taken care of already. We had that taken care of long before today. But for an atmosphere, I don't know. I'm not going to run down my own pub, because I hope to be able to generate some sort of atmosphere in it. But it will be hard. And can we sustain it at a quarter of the trade? Yes, we can. We can certainly sustain it until early next year, when I think. But listen,
I'm glad to see you're thinking in those longer terms, because you're paying attention, which is nice. Some business owners want to put their head in the sand and think,
we're not going to come out of this fucking China.
You're thinking strategically. You're digging in for the war. I like that, Fergie.
We're not coming out of this China. There's no two ways about it. We're not going to get back up to the way we were. There's no way we can.
Oh, did the brewery take back the kegs, by the way, for Paddy's? Good lads.
The brewery were amazing. Actually, anybody.
Who'd say now to you, silver tongue?
Anybody that I had any dealings with, as far as owners of the building, in Carlsberg, anybody that had any interest.
Everyone's been fair with you?
Shocking fair.
Really?
Apart from the Polish government, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Listen,
well, for the crime of making a little profit in Q1, I'm sure you haven't been able to receive any support. How dare you, Fergie?
That was the problem, that I made a profit.
It's not a problem for you too that the next 2 quarters have been wiped out. You can just stand there on the sideline.
Like I was saying to you earlier, there was assistance. I'm not going to run the government down completely, because I don't understand half the stuff that we're doing, right? But yes, there was options of assistance. The one that I did that I done straight away was to make sure that the staff got what they were entitled to, in regard to Zeus payments and
big shout out to the staff.
Absolutely, the staff.
Fergie's great staff.
Been amazing. There's 8 of them down there. I was trying my best for the last 2 months to give them even hours when we were closed. There was stuff to be done. I was trying to find work for them to do there behind closed doors. wearing masks and wearing gloves and sanitizer when they were there. But we've done a few things around the bar. We've tidied it up, and we've done a lot of work. And the staff, I can't wait to have them back. I don't know what the future holds for them or for all of them, but I will do my best for them, and they know that.
Of course, you're even checking in on your locals, so you're keeping a close eye on them all.
Yeah,
a little hub, a little community.
Well, you have to, because the way it was with Duffy's is about 60% of our trade was tourist trade. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm being a bit, maybe more than 60%. I always like to think it was 60-40. It could be 70-30. As far as tourists goes, I don't know whether that number is exact or how exact that number is. But if I was to depend on tourists coming, I don't think tourists are going to come this year at all. I've had a few inquiries. But I don't think they're going to come in the volumes that will put Duffy's back to the way it was.
I think you can pack it with locals. Really do.
Again, I revert back to it's a sports bar. If we have sports, if we have music, we can get 25% of what we had in. I can that will sustain the bar. That'll be all right if we can do that.
I have to start a pub quiz.
Probably start a pub.
It's all hands to deck now. Yeah. Right, I might have to get the karaoke discs out. It's just warning. It's just a warning.
Well, we could do it.
Oh, shit's getting real.
Very joking. Look, we'll have to, you said to me before, you said to me when this started, you said to me in March about having a plan A or a new plan A and a plan B and a plan C, to look at what can be done for the future, because it is not going to go back to the way, and I'm very aware of that. Thank you for your advice at the time and all the advice that you do give me. But what I'm saying to you is, it won't. I'm aware of it, that it won't go back to the way it was. Will it go back to something of what it was? Please God, it will. I don't know what the future holds.
The world needs Duffy's. The world needs it. And
I need Duffy's. I need it from a social perspective. Never mind a business perspective.
Look,
I'm cracking up at home, Blackie. I need to get out of the house. I need a reason to get out to work. I use the inverted commas with my finger, when I say the word work, but I like to be there. I like to have a reason to go down and meet a few people and have a bit of chat and how's it going and what's the crack. I'm starving for that. I'm hungry for that.
Mm-hmm. I know. I actually can't wait to get back to the office myself. It's something about just leaving the house every day. And
that's it.
Having a routine,
Yeah, that's it. And coming home at 6 in the evening and complaining about this, that, and other.
I never thought I'd get tired of tracksuit bottoms. I never thought I'd get tired of the feeling of being in tracksuit bottoms. Josh never wears tracksuit bottoms. You wouldn't even think about it. I've caught you once or twice, actually.
Yeah, no.
Too classy. Too much class for tracksuit bottoms.
Oh, stop, man.
But no, I need to get back to work. But I will not do it until the time is right.
You're prepared to listen to the best advice of the government on sanitation, if not taxation.
Definitely not taxation.
Well, I think we have a situation where, I'm kind of freestyling here a little bit, but I'm assuming that if the government has kind of lifted restrictions to a greater extent than was anticipated, there is the kind of proviso incorporated into all of that if the charts start going crazy with new infections or the death rate or whatever, blah, 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 then they'll ratchet it back again. One assumes that's got to be part of the...
That's what I'm worried about. Process.
See, I don't want that either, Joe. And you're right. That's exactly what's going to happen. That's 100% what's going to happen. But I don't want that. I'd rather it to be right from the start, rather than go 2 months in and say, pull it again. Or go 3 months in and say, well, listen, the number...
But you don't have that luxury.
It'll be a shorter time scale.
Because when you've dampened it down, and then the only bad thing that can happen is that it mushrooms back up again, which unfortunately it seems to be doing in most of the countries who've already eased the lockdowns. That seems to be the trend so far. We don't know. We don't even know the basics. Is this a measles type thing where, you get it once and that's it? Is this like malaria where you can get it over and over and it kills you by 1,000 cuts? We don't know what it is. We still haven't a clue. It scares me.
You're right there when you said about some of the stats across Europe. Like when Spain opened, when they eased the restrictions, they had to go back. They had to change again after 2 weeks. Germany the same just recently. Italy the same. They eased the restrictions again. They had to go back. And why doesn't Poland learn by what's happened with other countries? The same as what Poland has learned from other European countries as far as the lockdown goes.
But at some point, you have to get to, as God help us, Trump phrased it, the cure being worse than the sickness. If the overall economy tanks into 20-30% unemployment, and we're starting to look at you know, this is the main problem as well. We were just getting over a massive financial crisis. You know, it took all of the financial chicanery we had in our toolbox to get out of that one. And, you know, the guns are empty and people are standing around going, this one could be even 6-7 times worse. I mean, it's scary times, isn't it?
Yeah, well, scary times as far as, okay, we were told today that we can open on the 18th. Why not wait until the end of the month and maybe
Yeah.
don't do it in the middle of the month, and then maybe open the beer gardens first outside. Let's see how that works. Let's learn from that. Don't try and open too much at the one time in the middle of the month. Is my point.
I agree with you totally, but your logic depends on if you do it carefully and then you open again. Then you're out of the woods. But what Josh has pointed out, and I would agree with, is that you're out of the woods until there's another little cluster, and then you're talking about, you know, a serious situation for the people who catch that disease, but the entire economy then kind of shutting down based on these triggers that are put in place by plans that are going to be put out by governments all over the world in the next couple of months. Do we honestly look at the news every night and think these guys have it all figured out? I mean, you know, the whole world is sitting around, and my big concern is that we take it as writ that we can function in an economy with a quarter of the amount of customers and premises around the world. And that is like this huge landmine that we're tripping over right now. I don't know what the solution is. There's no easy solutions to this. Like, I mean, I suppose what I'm saying is, you know, at some stage I agree with you. Phase it out, do it carefully. But when we hit the ground, we're in it for a penny in for a pound. We're not locking down again for a few cases. You know, it's going to have to be extra hospitals rather than, you know, lockdowns. Why aren't we talking about that? You know, if the health systems need extra capacity,
well, I think
let's build it.
I think that's one of the things. I mean, that actually, as it's turned out, I mean, you know, putting to one side, you know, obviously all the sad cases that have happened, but I'm not sure that the health service has actually been overwhelmed either in this country. I mean, I know certainly in you know, big parts of the UK, they've had these emergency hospitals that actually haven't been.
Yeah, but when you go back to having all the elective procedures and the health system's supposed to function at its normal level, and you got to get rid of the backlog we've already created, and then you got to treat all the new COVID patients. That's where I'm talking about extra capacity. But it seems to me that we're more thinking about having a trigger, like you said earlier, a trigger for if we get a certain amount of cases after we end the lockdown, we're going back on lockdown. And that's incredibly serious implication, isn't it? I mean, you know, we're not even debating this. The Irish Parliament isn't even in session. You know, we haven't even got a government, Fergie.
I don't know much about all governments saying this and governments saying that, but one of my gripes that I've had with this is there was no Europe, because Poland is located where it is, there was no European voice. Every country was watching another country. There was no... Yeah. We have the WHO and you have Trump over there and you have Como talking about this, but there was no European voice. There was no... who do you depend on? Angela Merkel?
Look,
she's got her own
I will
problems.
say this, for all the shit when we gave the WHO on an episode, there was a few weeks there where it was like a slow moving train coming towards us and we couldn't really figure out what to do. And I guess, you know, with all the movies out there and all the knowledge and the SARS and the MERS and the H1N1, we'd been well warned. But I think the best guy, I don't remember who it was, he was on CNN one night and he was saying, you know what, they just didn't kill enough people, those diseases, to make us worried. In fact, our reaction to flu pandemics was, not another one, like nothing ever happens. And maybe that's what got us, but I don't know. I mean, you know, it seems that my point has come to an end, Fergie.
Well, I think, you know, the other thing, of course, was that certainly in the early stages, we didn't even know...
I totally forgot my overarching point.
We didn't even know the best course of treatment. And I mean, you know, if you remember, the initial panic was like, we don't have enough ventilators. And now it's been fairly clearly established that the last thing you want to do with someone who's really ill with this disease is stick a tube down their throat and force oxygen.
That was a very interesting... There was a very good piece when that was... This New York doctor went on the record and, you know, gave an incredibly devastating analysis of that whole situation. And there's been many of those gut punch moments where we realise, look, oh my God, I've so much sympathy for those doctors trying to figure out, they're being asked those questions, you know, what is this? How do we react? What do we do? You know, I totally get that, you know, they're always going to err on the side of caution, but it's still totally reasonable to ask questions about, you know, what happens next and are the decisions being made valid ones? It cannot be okay in this time of crisis to simply say debate is finished.
Away, lads, yeah.
That's not acceptable. In Ireland, I'll give you an example, right? There was a panic about PPE availability, Fergie. You remember this? Basically the official advice was, masks are shite. You'll only keep touching yourself. You won't use them properly. You're not a surgeon. You don't know how to use a mask properly. And at the whole time you're thinking just this simple bit of common sense. Well, it can't hurt, surely, if we're doing everything else.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was that kind of cross purposes going on, wasn't there? Because people going like, yeah, but masks don't protect you, And that was it. Blah, blah, blah. And then somebody says like, no, you fool, it's not about protecting you, it's about protecting other people from you.
Your mask protects you, your mask protects you, your mask, you know what the fuck I'm saying. Anyway, there's a whole slogan in the Czech Republic. Anyway, and in Ireland, the official line was, don't be going out buying masks, because they were worried Irish people would only accept proper surgical masks, and there'd be a huge demand on the PPE they were trying to get their hands on for the medical community. But it's just total bullshit. Like, just be honest with people. Say, don't buy the medical mask, make one out of your t-shirt, and that's better than nothing. What's wrong with saying that?
Which I've seen you've done, actually, have you?
Yeah, I do. I go full, full deserts, whatever you want to say. Like,
Lawrence of Arabia.
Lawrence of Arabia on it, yeah.
It is a certain...
It's very easy to do. You can just swing it over your head, but only when it's cold. You don't want to be wearing that when it's...
The distinctive look.
Yeah, but...
You've got to be confident to pull that off.
Thank you. But there's mixed messages, and nobody's challenging this from the Irish government, Fergie. Didn't that annoy you, kind of?
From my perspective, and listening to my mum and my family in Ireland, brothers and sisters is there, the way the Irish government done it at the time is they seemed to stand up, or the Taoiseach stood up and frightened the shit out of everybody.
Effectively.
Like the boogeyman's coming, and that's it. You know what I mean? People in Ireland sat up, their ears pricked back, said, all right, let's do this. Sat themselves down and locked themselves away. Right now, the same as everybody else, they mightn't have been as strict as they were in Poland. Mm-hmm. As far as quarantine goes, I know there was a lot of movement. There was a lot of people moving back, even from here, from Krakow to Ireland, that didn't have to do quarantine, and there was people coming in to Krakow that absolutely had to do quarantine. I think Poland's reaction, and I know I'm digressing a bit, but Poland's reaction to quarantine has been amazing. There was about 500,000 registered cases of people actually doing their quarantine, which is way more. 60% of Irish people didn't do it at all. They were instructed to do it.
The Irish and British governments correctly concluded quickly in Whitehall and in Leinster House that there was a chance we would be able to produce an efficient working app like that and actually get people to comply with it.
Yeah.
The Polish government got that in place so quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to give them that one. Like, you know what I mean, that system seemed to work. We know people who've been quarantined. Yeah. They are not messing about, man. No, I mean, the cops visit. Trust us,
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ireland's response to it, again, it's a smaller population. It's 3.5 million. I think has been fantastic. I think a lot of it, I've been speaking to some publicans that have bars in Ireland. They are struggling, and they will struggle the same.
Absolutely.
The only thing that I don't feel sorry for myself is that everybody's in the same position. So it's not as if I'm told to do something and Tommy down the street, he's all right.
But you know why you worry about that, right? It's kind of tying back to what we were just talking about. Yeah. And I know the mask thing is just a small example, but there was a kind of complete lack of logic behind it. And by the way, the official advice of both the British and Irish government in the next week, I guarantee you, is going to be, when lockdown ends, now use a mask. Yeah. So how does that make any sense? Yeah. But it's just one of those examples of we have to kind of... We all want to lock on to a plan that makes sense, and we want to follow it, and we want to get out the other side of this thing. But unfortunately, as we all knew when we elected them, governments aren't superheroes. They don't have all the answers, and it is absolutely necessary now more than ever, in my opinion, to have really good debates about the options. Mm-hmm. There's no consensus in the epidemiological community about the coronavirus. It just came on the scene, We at our peril, we build these narratives that we have to stick to. Josh, would you agree?
Oh yeah,
sorry, I'm just bringing it in.
I think so, and I know I see by Josh's reaction that he does agree. But I don't want to dwell on it too much more, longer than I have to. But I go back to what I said a minute ago, and I'm not right on a whole lot of things. But I'm telling you that there was no European voice that Ireland could do this, Poland could do that, the Czech Republic could do this, England might try that, France will do this, Spain. But nobody said, listen Europe, or listen whatever, or not saying listen world, I'm not talking like that, but because, you know, so some other nations have a different way of doing it. But I think there should have been, at the time, what's good for one is good for all, and the same right the way down to business, right down to locking down and opening up. I think there should have been.
Well, that makes total sense to me, right?
But then there's no confusion.
It does make total sense to me, because at the time everyone was a bit disappointed maybe that Britain wasn't following along in Sweden with the strategy as in, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound, lads. All right, no, you left the EU, bad example. But, you know, my point would be, because we're always debating the EU, me and Josh, is that actually this proves what I'm always saying about the EU, is that despite the images of them being these overarching, overpowerful mandarins controlling our lives, in fact, most people in most EU countries understand the EU as a limited organisation, best practice, etc., legal kind of unity, you know. Yeah. But there is no EU law until you write it onto your own books. That's what the majority of infringement procedures are over in the EU. But I think that means there will never be, by design, and I think it's a good thing, a strong central voice on something like this, because the whole idea is you don't look to Ursula von der Leyen, you look to Leo Varadkar and Mateusz Morawiecki, because they're the people you elected.
Well, I think there's also, I mean, you know, this is always considered to be one of the advantages of like kind of, you know, federated countries like the United States or Germany or whatever, is that where you have like a high level of devolved local government, and that, you know, one state or one region tries something out. If it works well, then other people go like, oh, we're copying that. If it's a disaster, they say, oh, thank God we didn't take that on board. I mean,
it becomes a bit of, as well, kind of, like shaming your neighbour, and it's like the kind of calling the cops on your 70-year-old pal who went for a walk and everything. Like, you know, there's also this kind of judging each other aspect that goes on.
I mean, there's upsides and downsides, and of course, you know, if you're in one of the regions which chooses a policy which turns out to be a very misguided policy, and maybe you have a worse death rate or a worse this, or, you know, blah 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 blah, then, you know, that's terrible, and you're quite justified in complaining, why on earth didn't we have some more centralised thing? Okay. But imagine if you had a more centralised thing and their decision was the wrong one, and then you infect a vastly bigger area. And I think what we know very, very clearly about this whole kind of pandemic situation is exactly that we don't know, that nobody knows. Even the so-called experts have been challenged by other so-called experts. There is no clear consensus about, you know, what this disease does, how infectious it is, how dangerous it is, how many people are likely to be completely unaffected by it, whether it's even as dangerous as some people are claiming, or whether it's even more dangerous, but because of the various tactics that have been undertaken, it's been suppressed to some degree.
Good point, great point.
We will figure out what it is and how we can treat it, but my worry is that it might be a bit more nasty and pernicious than we already have feared. I mean, we still don't know yet, you know.
Well, look, to be honest, Dave, I mean, since the big, you know, Spanish flu pandemic, 1918-19, which kind of...
The second wave was way worse, huh?
Which certainly brought the whole kind of influenza thing into the kind of world perspective. And since then, you know, more or less, yes, we have jabs every year. That's a recent-ish thing. But actually, we kind of have to live with flu being a fact of life every year. And like, you know, and that's something that fluctuates. We'll have a bad flu every 5-6 years or so, maybe a really bad flu every 20 years or so. And, you know, the death rates when it's about...
Shall we all trail off like all CNN contributors and anchors, and everyone on Sky News is doing whenever they're talking about this and go, it's a new normal.
Yeah, but
getting back to Fergie, who was invited here to talk.
I just something to say. I'm a little bit annoyed, and the reason that I talked for a European voice, maybe the heads of state could have got together and maybe come up with a better plan. Certainly, when they knew what the problem was and what was working, they could have rolled out something that way. Because I have a friend at the moment who's just after driving up from Spain, right through France, right to the UK, and they're back in the UK now with no quarantine. Mm-hmm. After coming
because fundamentally the EU is about freedom of movement, you know, and they're totally ill-equipped to give you a lockdown.
There's talk now, if you fly in, you have to go into quarantine. If you fly out, if you come in here, you have to go into quarantine. But how can he drive from the south of Spain the last 3 days and arrive in UK?
Because roadblocks are expensive.
Yesterday morning, and got there and no quarantine, and he could be bringing any infections with him. He could be bringing anything he wanted wherever he wanted, and chances are he has more infections than COVID.
Anyway. How's life anyway, Fergie?
I do like he's a good
Let's talk
friend.
about you, man. Newly married man. Great wedding, by the way.
Thanks very much. Both of you were at it.
Indeed, yeah.
But talk about me. There's not much to talk about me. I need to get out. Not out of here. Well, actually out of here as well. But I need to get out. I'm doing okay. I'm trying to get out for a walk every evening, doing 8 and 10 kilometres an evening.
Good man.
Up around the lake, up around Nova Huta, and which is a bit scary when it gets very dark at around midnight. I don't like to.
Don't out there frightening yourself, Fergie.
Up around Huta.
You're walking around lakes.
Huta is, I love it, I live in it, and like I said before, but the lights go out now at 12 o'clock and it gets very dark.
Oh yeah, we're always talking about, sorry, I forgot what I didn't realise what you meant there. Sorry, you mean the controversial cutting off of the lights to save 100 grand? It's absolutely ridiculous, it is, man.
It's like something you'd see in a horror movie, because literally it goes down in blocks, like goes doom, doom, like you can see it going down the street.
Oh, right.
It's mental, it's mad. And if you're out for a walk late at night up around the lake there in Huta, you could get graffiti wrote on yourself.
Yeah. So you take a lot of midnight lakeside strolls out in Huta.
The walks start out early and they end up late. Like, it's not, I'm just getting slower. I tried to do it a little.
And are you noticing in your nocturnal state now with no artificial light, like more badgers or more mysterious rustlings?
The mysterious rustlings do get
dunes of transpiral over in the bushes.
It does get on my nerves a bit. I do tend to walk in the middle of the road.
Oh, God.
I'd rather take my chance with a car than a road.
Be careful, dude. You're going to get attacked by a wild boar. Go for a walk during the day. Yeah. Any shout outs or final points, Fergie?
Nothing. I can't believe that we were talking about death and mortality rates earlier on. I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about, but there was a woman in Spain today who has recovered, and she's 113.
Good on you, love. What's her name?
Her name
Maria Teresa, probably.
went into hospital.
Stereotyping, sorry.
Oh yeah, actually, Mina. There you go, Mina. Second paragraph.
Maria Brañas.
Marina Braña.
Well, actually, sorry, Maria for a Spanish lady is pretty much a given. Actually, I think they're all called Maria.
Well, I just want to
take that, Spain.
I just want to say, well done to her on getting well. She went in.
We're going to get so slagged for that on the comments. So.
You will. You said it.
But it is actually true. I mean, it's a middle name. You know.
Well, it's a popular name. I'm named David, one of the blandest, shittest names in the world. Sorry, man. I love his boy. You know, it's kind of like just a boring name, Dave, isn't it? Like, you know, your mate Dave. Like,
yeah.
It's literally a thing. Your mate Dave.
It's actually it's a channel in the UK as well. Which is a bit sad, actually, Dave. Now that you mentioned it, and there's Dave Javu actually.
I'm only joking.
Which is a repeat of what was after being shown an hour later.
I battered Goliath though, didn't I?
But listen, a big shout out to her, Maria. She went into hospital in April, and she's doing fine. She's 113 years of age, and she's making a slow but steady recovery. She's beaten the virus, so there's hope for us all.
Beautiful story there. Ave Maria.
Well, there you go. So
any other shout outs?
Nothing much. Nothing. I'm looking forward to seeing you whenever I see you.
When we rebook St. Patrick's Day, our special KrakCast St. Patrick's Day.
Would you be thinking maybe August weekend? It's usually a big.
I'm trying to think of a perfect intersection of non-sanitary restrictions and enough distance between the end of them, so when people see how rowdy we get on St. Patrick's Day, they won't be.
August weekend in Ireland is always a big weekend. It's a bank holiday weekend. There's always a session on. I can remember growing up, August weekend was one of the ones. It was a factory holiday, you know.
And if we do have to distance, everyone's just going to have to be as loud as I am.
Oh no! So maybe we put it on hold until next year altogether, until the actual date. We'll bring it back where it should be on the 17th of March next year. If we don't have it August weekend, the first weekend in August.
Anyway, give a little sales speech to your Irish bar, like you know, like give
nothing. It's there. It's there. Most of you know where it is. If you don't, well, then there's not much point in me telling you. If you find it, if you want to
find it on Facebook, Duffy's Irish Bar on Facebook.
Facebook, on Google Business. Give it have a look at it.
Please leave your suggestions for our rearranged St. Patrick's Day. Remember, people, the criteria that I set. I want a historic kind of vague reason. It can be mocking the Irish, celebrating the Irish. It can be vaguely Irish, kind of racist. We don't really care about that, do we? In Ireland, we don't mind a bit of paddy whackery, Josh. You know, you laugh loudly whenever I say the word three. You know, what I mean, I tried to say right there,
and
that's
all derivatives thereof.
Purple.
Purple. Yeah. So you can go nuts on all of that, but we want some kind of funny reason why we should have it. But remember the logical intersection of sanitary restrictions, and it needs to happen preferably not too late in the year. Although December St. Patrick's Day does
Really?
kind of appeal to me.
Well, it's getting close to the next one by that stage, though, isn't it?
I'd be shooting for August, September.
Anyway, yeah. Okay,
there
so
you go.
I'm not really good at outroing it.
Okay, so I'll end it at this. The bar should be open on the 1st of June. I'll keep you posted on the page if anybody has any interest in coming down. You're more than welcome. Wash your hands, stay safe, and stay in Duffy's.
Stay in Duffy's. You can have no greater stamp of this man's exquisite taste than he listens to every episode of this podcast.
We
Get
do.
up out of that. You're a legend. Go on.